Morning.
Good morning, Ed St. John here.
Morning, First Selectman.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
How you doing? Where do I go?
If you want to mute or if you want to stop the video, but you're there.
Oh, okay.
Everybody can see and hear you.
Which one are those?
You're
first ones?
unmuted. And I'm gonna start.
Which one's going to
There will be two. I'll mention them when I
Okay.
come up to them.
Okay.
Go to the screen. Okay, folks, we're sorry that it's taken a couple more minutes. We still have some people in the waiting room who are unidentified. So we're gonna try, we're just gonna go ahead and admit them, and if it's a problem, we'll have to bounce them out later. Just a couple of things in advance before the meeting's convened. So Mayor O'Leary, Mayor Loretti, and First Selectman Miller have a different commitment for 9/11 today. It's probably our fault for scheduling this day and not seeing it, but so they won't be joining us. First Selectman Moan will be chairing the meeting.
Anything other before I call it to order, Rick?
No,
Meeting
we can,
being recorded.
yeah, the meeting is being recorded. So, and it's live, it's going out live over our website and YouTube, even if you're not a participant. You can watch it there. If you have comment or want to speak up, I mean, obviously, we're gonna let you unmute yourselves. We're gonna try and keep you muted if there's background noise, but you can always unmute yourself. And then you can enter comments into the chat if you want. We'll keep an eye on that. Or you can use the raise hand function if you want to be recognized, or just wave your hands on the screen and we'll know. All right, with that, turn it over to First Selectman Moan.
All right, thank you. So at 10:05 a.m., I will call this meeting to order. Those of us who are here will rise for the pledge, and those of you in your offices virtually, please go on with it. Please lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
Flag, United States of America,
to the republic
to the
for
republic
which it stands,
which it stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under God,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, one and all. Roll call, Rick, and maybe however you want to handle it, but certainly we have those in the room that you could call. If you would like the others to simply call in or log in by chat, how would you like to
No,
do that?
I think what we're gonna do, we're gonna call the roll. We'll unmute everyone, Richard, and if you could just do that. And we will, I'll call the roll in order. From the city of Ansonia, Sheila O'Malley.
Here,
Okay. From the town of Beacon Falls, First Selectman Smith. Okay. From the town of Bethlehem, First Selectman Assard is with us in the room.
I heard that amount was.
Rick, can I just say something? I didn't know you were meeting at the COG. I would have been there, sorry.
Right, all right,
I
Sheila,
didn't
your
know.
participation is appreciated just the same.
Okay. I just,
Yeah, it's not an issue. Everybody can refer back to their notice for this month's meeting. You'll see how to let us know if you want to attend in person. You have to do that in advance, though. Okay.
okay.
So from the city of Bristol, Mayor Zoppo-Sasso.
Here.
Okay. From the town of Cheshire, Jerry Sitko. Is Jerry out there?
I think I saw him.
Okay.
I saw him.
All right. We'll count Jerry as present. We saw him. He was spotted. From the city of Derby, we have Mayor Zekin.
Here.
And I believe he's joined by his chief of staff, Andrew Backlick. From the town of Oxford, First Selectman Temple is
Here.
with us. From the town of Plymouth, Mayor Merchant.
Here.
From the town of Prospect, we have Mayor Chatfield with us here in the room.
Hello.
From the town of Seymour, First Selectman Miller could not be with us. And just to note, this would have been his last meeting. He's given his notice as First Selectman and will be leaving. He may attend the October meeting if he can, if he's available. Mayor Loretti is not with us. From the town of Southbury, First Selectman Manville.
Okay.
Anybody from the town of Southbury? Okay. From town of Thomaston, we have First Selectman Moan in the room.
Present.
From the city of Waterbury, we have Junie Mancini in the room. From the town of Wolcott, Mayor Dunn is with us. We see him. From the town of Woodbury, First Selectman Perkinson
Barbara's up there.
is with us. And we have several guests with us today.
Rick, you forgot the town of Middlebury.
I did. I skipped over it.
Yeah,
No,
city of
How
Middlebury.
did we get you?
Oh, my
I
God.
skipped Middlebury and Naugatuck.
Good.
So I could never forget. First Selectman Hess. So we have
St. John.
Mayor Hess from the Borough of Naugatuck and First Selectman St. John. Believe me,
Capital of the ballot.
this is not going to go well today, guys. I can tell you right
Yeah,
now.
Rick, you're digging yourself a hole there.
We're having computer problems as well, so I apologize in advance for some of the problems with the presentations today, but we had a software problem.
All that said, we'll get through this as best we can, and we'll explain what be necessary if we can't produce the documents. We'll get there. Just bear with us as we do so. So roll call, and do we have a quorum?
There is a quorum present for both bodies, but I just need to announce we have guests on the line. Deputy Commissioner, DOT Deputy Commissioner Garrett Euclido is with us. He's first on the agenda. David Murphy will be here for the natural hazard mitigation planning. We're also joined by Sarah Radacey from DOT, our field coordinator. Hetty Ayers is with us today from Eversource. She will be recognized in the public portion. She wants to address the board. And then we have some other DOT staff that I saw come in. Mary Beth Wojcinski is with us. Catherine Faraci. Senator Logan is with us. Pam Sakato from the DOT is also on the line. And Sam Levon from Eversource. I probably missed some of the congressional offices that might have joined, but we're trying our best to keep up. So anyway, with that, I will finally turn the agenda over to.
Well, thank you.
First Selectman Mullin.
So the next matter is there any public comment? Public comment?
Yes.
Yes,
Go
Hetty
ahead,
Ayers.
Hetty.
Hey,
Gonna-
Senator Logan here.
Eddie?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm joined, as Rick said, by Sam Laban. And first and foremost, Sam and I wanted to extend our thanks to all of you, to your emergency operations personnel, your public works officials, and everyone who was involved for their assistance during Storm Isaias. And again, when Storm Laura impacted our region. As you can imagine, over the past several weeks, we have been very focused on examining our storm restoration efforts, as well as responding to PURA, to our legislators, to our towns. And truly, we greatly appreciate all the feedback that you have shared with us to date. It is critical information that we can leverage to make improvements moving forward. So again, thank you so much for all of that. And just really unrelated, we wanted just to make sure that folks had saw the press release that we forwarded this week with important messaging regarding extended protections from service disconnection during the pandemic for residential customers. Just some key takeaways to highlight from that press release is that the state's moratorium on electric service disconnections for non-hardship residential customers has been extended to October 1st, but it's important to note that Eversource will not actively move forward with collections activities such as disconnections for residential customers when the moratorium does expire on October 1st, and we will work closely with state regulators and with stakeholders to evaluate when disconnections for non-payment would resume. And similarly, we have not begun disconnection activity for business customers, even though the state's moratorium on those disconnections expired in August, on August 1st. Also wanted to highlight the COVID-19 payment programs that are still available for both residential and business customers. So we're encouraging folks to reach out if they are in need of assistance. Other cost-saving measures in terms of the many energy efficiency options that are still available. And lastly, on the business front, the business customers can take advantage of flexible payment arrangements, those same energy efficiency solutions, and a special arrearage forgiveness process. So there's lots of good information out there in the press release that we forwarded, much more on our website. So just wanted to make sure that that didn't get lost in your email boxes. So I appreciate the opportunity. It's good to see everyone, and I wish you all a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Hetty. Just one quick comment on all of that. As you send out, or as Eversource sends out bills, not you, to the various different residential and commercial sectors, is there any information in there to those people directly regarding the programs being offered?
I know that there have been, I can't speak specifically to, what's most recently been sent, but I can follow up on that. I know there are some some folks that I can contact to get more information on that front. Are you talking about what was, for example, just highlighted in the press release, or are you talking about and highlighted over the last?
No, I'm talking about what you most recently put out there, just as a reminder to those folks who have been suffering or, having difficulty for whatever reasons they have been, knowing that they have opportunities for relief and or some adaptation to pay their bills, I think would be greatly helpful to them. And if you guys would reach out directly, instead of relying on a press release, it might be very beneficial.
Right, and understood. And the press releases are, obviously just one mechanism of outreach. I know that there has been, but let me get back to you with more specifics just to confirm exactly what's been shared. But I know that there has been direct outreach to customers.
That's fine. I'm just recommending that Eversource do so. Thank you, Hetty.
Thank you.
Senator Logan, I know you would like to speak to us, and we'd like to hear from you.
Did
Did he leave?
He might have left, yeah.
Oh, sorry to hear. Should he come back, we'll bring him in at a later time.
And at this point, I would just recognize Lou Mangini from Congresswoman DeLaura's office has joined us. Thank you, Lou. I missed you on the first go around.
Welcome. Good morning. If I may, Rick, a quick question. You had sent an email around about a multi-regional COG EDA grant application. Have you gotten any response on that for setting up that meeting with the EDA?
I'd be lying if I said I saw any of my email yet today, but
Fair enough.
Jimmy, Connor, and Allison were the three people who were aware of it through the meetings that have occurred over the last couple of weeks. Connor, I think, was going to take the lead on trying to put it together. I just copied as many people as I could late yesterday after the meeting with the governor's people.
I'll ping Allison when she gets back into the office. Thank you.
All right. Is there any other public comment? I'll ask one more time. Any other public comment? Thank you. Hearing none, we'll move on to on the agenda. Next matter is a discussion with the COT Deputy Commissioner. Deputy Commissioner, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. My name's Garrett Euclido. I'm the Deputy Commissioner here at DOT, joined in January. I'm joined by a few others on my team, Sarah, Mary Beth, Casey, as well as Kim Lassay. So what I've done is I've prepared a really quick presentation and then want to have time for discussion, questions, any issues that you want to bring up. Just a quick update on what we've been doing since COVID hit. So
Please proceed.
oh, I don't have the ability to share my screen.
Yeah,
Well,
you have the ability now.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so that should be the title slide. So I'll just, if it doesn't change, just flag it for me. I'll keep rolling. So agenda, just want to cover three quick topics. Our operations during COVID, public transportation services, and the state of the transportation fund. Really quickly, that's me on the left there. And then Kim Lassay is our new Bureau Chief for Policy and Planning. She took over for Tom Maziarz, who has retired and is working on special projects for the department. So Kim is on the phone as well. So in case there's any questions for Kim, she has a long tenure here at DOT, leading our Office of Environmental Planning, and has worked in various spaces here at DOT and the private sector as well. So jumping over to what we've been up to during COVID, we have over 3,000 staff. Everyone's continued working throughout the entire time, just like all of your municipal employees have been as well. Well over half of our staff are in the field every day. They're maintainers, they're out on the roadways. We did do split shifts in the very beginning to avoid any garages from being lost due to an outbreak, but we brought everyone back on full shifts, and they continue to work through this. What we did see though was that roadway traffic did drop. So this here, we have on our website, we have all of our traffic counts published for the public to be able to see. This is traffic count data from March to May for Middlebury and I-84 in Middlebury. But following that, it has now recovered. We're back up to close to pre-pandemic level traffic volumes on our interstate roadways. Unfortunately, what we have seen is a significant increase in fatalities on our roadways. We also have seen significant increases in speeding as well. So this is of major concern to us. We're working with the state police. You probably have seen some of the ads that we have both on the highways and on television and on the internet, trying to raise awareness about drunk driving and distracted driving. We're ramping up those educational campaigns to try and address this. During the time when we did have the reduction in traffic on our roadways, we did accelerate some work to be able to get more work done. We were able to close down a lane, work during more daylight hours due to the lack of a rush hour. And that kept us on track. We had no delayed projects as a result of that efficient work schedule. We did take advantage of some federal waivers. We had food trucks at our rest areas for the first time in history. That's a federal ban on any commercial activity there. So we took advantage of that to keep the truckers fueled up while they were delivering a lot of supplies. And we were the first state to take advantage of dining in the rights of way on our roadways. So that was positive. We still have that. That's extended until November 12th. We also did move to virtual public information meetings, as you all have had to do. So we are posting all those meetings on our website, and within 7 days of the meeting concluding, and they are being retained there for the public to access. We have seen a lot more participation as a result of that virtual engagement. And similar to you, we had to help respond to the tropical storm, didn't go as smoothly as we would have liked. We had significant delays waiting for utility connections to be cleared so we could remove some of the trees. But we're ready to move forward. We're ready for hopefully a lackluster hurricane season, and then hopefully an also lackluster winter season. We would like to limit the number of plow season days we have to do. Switching to public transportation. So thanks to the support of the congressional delegation, there was $488 million provided to Connecticut through the Federal Transit Administration's CARES Act piece. That has allowed us to continue to provide public transportation services in our state. On the bus side, bus services largely have continued throughout the pandemic. Very limited reductions in schedules at the peak. And it's with the CARES funds, we should be able to continue to provide these services without interruption through next summer. On the rail side, it's a little bit of a different story. Rail services were pared back significantly. Ridership dropped close to 100% on the Shoreline and Metro North lines. So we did reduce schedules there. You'll see on this chart, the top line is bus. The second line down is the Hartford line. The reddish one, the third one down, is Metro North, and the bottom one is Shoreline East. So you see this return of rail customers slowly increasing on the Shoreline and Metro North. Hartford line is recovering faster. Bus ridership is significantly returned, and bus ridership barely, peak of pandemic, it was down around 50%. Now we're back up pretty close to where we were pre-pandemic. And wearing a mask, one thing is we continue to stress to the public, you need to wear a mask on public transportation. It is part of the governor's executive order. And we continue to stress that. And it's really important if we want to continue to provide these services. Last issue, Special Transportation Fund. So during fiscal year 20, OPM estimated that we lost revenue totaling around $180 million. So we came in $180 million below what we were estimating for that fiscal year. And they are projecting a $140 million loss, or coming in $140 million below where we were expecting. That's significant concern. All of you were aware of the problems facing the STF prior to COVID. Now due to COVID, this is just accelerating the problems facing the STF. Congress has not provided a revenue backstop requested by the state DOTs due to the loss of revenue in the transportation funds across the country. We are extremely grateful for the CARES Act funds that helped transit. Unfortunately, all the other operations of state DOTs will likely face severe crunches and suspensions in the upcoming future if the Senate doesn't act to address a lot of these concerns. The House has definitely provided multiple efforts at this already, so we just need the Senate to act. The insolvency of the SDF has been accelerated now to fiscal year 22. What that means for us, I'll get into in a second, but if we didn't receive those FTA CARES funds that the delegation helped to secure, we would not be able to provide our public transportation services today on the rail and bus side. So it's extremely fortunate that we've been able to do that and continue to provide service. And if you look at the ridership data, it's shown that people used it throughout the pandemic, especially to get to, we looked at bus stop location data and ridership data, where people were getting off. A lot of people were using it to get to the supermarkets, to get to the hospitals, to get to the nursing homes, and to do those essential errands that they need to do and to get to their jobs when they were deemed essential. So what can you expect from the DOT throughout the next 3 months and then into next year? We're going to continue to move forward on everything we're doing today. Some staff are working telework. The rest of the staff who cannot continue to go to work in every day, but we're pushing out all projects that come in, lot zip, local bridge projects, and everything in our capital plan continues to move forward. Community Connectivity Grant Program, we have a third round of funding that the Bond Commission approved that is out for solicitation. So I'd encourage all of you to take a look at that. I mentioned the telework piece. We're going to let them telework as long as they can until hopefully we have a vaccine. We're preparing for the next legislative session. The way it works for us as executive branch agencies is we prepare our legislative proposals. Pam Ciccato, who I know many of you know, she's our lead on government affairs. She will collect all those, send them over to the governor's office and OPM for review, and then she'll bring them over to the legislature in the new year. At the same time, we're preparing our next 5-year capital plan. Our new chief engineer, Scott Hill, as well as our other deputy commissioner, Mark Rolfe, did have a briefing with the COG executive directors about our 5-year capital plan development. And so you'll be hearing more from us as the months go on in that 5-year capital plan development process. And lastly, we're going to continue to advocate for a revenue backstop for the transportation fund to ensure we don't have to have any cuts in the future. And we're going to fight for parity for the Hartford line. The Hartford line is the only commuter rail line that was, or only passenger rail line in the country that did not receive any FTA funds. So we're pushing to try to get that included in the next bill. Our delegation has been working with us on that. So that concludes my presentation. Here's our emails if you need to get in touch with us. I'll just add that I've talked to a couple of the Council of Governments so far, to the chief elected officials. Just want to stress, if you want to contact us anytime, feel free to reach out to any of us. I'm happy to go out and visit the communities and learn about some of the issues firsthand. I've been out to a couple communities out in Eastern Connecticut already to meet on some specific projects they want to address or thoughts they have for the future. So happy to make a trip out there. And with that, I will stop sharing and
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Deputy Commissioner. We here at COG compiled a number of questions for you. And I know Mayor Hess would like to direct.
I'll do question number 1.
All right, please do.
All right, so Garrett, during COVID-19 last week, I had my best meal at the station restaurant right in front of the train line. And the reason it was so great, the Metro North people were completing the signalization of the line. So now we have positive control, we have signalization, we have the crossings. We're only missing the train cars. We don't need brand new cars. We know it's going to take a while to get those and have them designed and ordered. But we are ready to have a real commuter line which will generate significant revenue for the state and help you with all your other problems. So the question from Naugatuck, from every town in the valley, from all 19 towns in the Valley COG is, what is the status of our requested improvements and enhancements to the Waterbury rail line? And why, more importantly, when we read the paper last week, we don't see our project mentioned anywhere, and we have 19 towns that want to know what the hell's going on right now.
Not sure. Are you talking about the STIP, the article about the STIP?
The capital plan.
The capital plan.
The
Deputy Commissioner,
it wasn't
an article about
the STIP, and the STIP is federal funds only. That's why that was not in there. So I will talk about the Waterbury line in general, though. So everyone knows we've spent $90 million to do that project already, to do the capital upgrades on the line.
By the way, wasn't that money allocated years ago?
Yes, it's currently being utilized. Yes.
Okay.
So it's scheduled to be completed in December of 21. That's when the signalization project will be completed. Any talk about expanding service, no public transportation service in this country generates revenue. It will cost money to implement new service. So what the next step for us as a department is, we have to submit a request to the legislature for more revenue or for more appropriations to be able to provide more services. So that will be in the next budget cycle.
So Garrett, if I might just jump in on this. So, I mean, the legislature did endorse additional rail cars for the Waterbury branch line, the Danbury line. But ultimately, it was a decision of the administration not to proceed with bonding authorization for that purchase. The biggest concern here is you've spent $90 million, it's actually $110 million now on the signalization of the line. And it's about a 4 to 5 year lead time for rail cars. So, you know, if we're not going to commit the resources to ordering rail cars, locating used ones, good luck, but I mean, we'll take them. But we're looking for some level of service increase on this. And point's well taken that no public transit runs without subsidy. But that doesn't make us any different than any other service you run in the state.
Correct. But if we were to have rail cars in hand today, we still cannot launch new service without more money from the General Assembly in our budget to pay for that service, because
Understood.
That's our next step. So our next step is we need to get appropriations to support new service, to add additional service on the line. That's the next step we need to do. Rail cars, we think we can identify existence of rail cars that can provide that service. So the next step in our process as a department is submit a budget request that will be an expansion option. But pointing to the transportation fund will be insolvent in 2022. But we believe it's important. We will be submitting an expansion option.
I would just like to make a point is we had a public hearing in Hartford where a great many of representatives from the surrounding communities, as well as first selectmen, mayors, and the director of our economic, Rick Dunn, showed as well. We got enormous support when we were in Hartford, almost unanimous that this was a very good idea. And then in as far as the state was already spending $90 million, 110, I think Rick said, to improve the service. And we made a very valid point that it would create great economic opportunity in the valley. Incidentally, an area of the state has been largely neglected with regard to transportation projects, and it was well favored. So I believe you can take that and the representation that was there, to the General Assembly to make the case. And that is what we would like to see. And if you show us that, and you show us an honest and earnest effort in that area, and the General Assembly denies it, then you have the case to make that you currently are. But until that is done, the words just seem hollow.
Well,
So Garrett will
I
take
think
up.
I disagree with that, given how much money we've pumped into the line. I am from Torrington. I'm born and raised. I'm from the Valley. So, with all due respect, we have pumped a lot of money into the line, and the department is invested in the line. If you go to the Waterbury station today, that was a city project, partnership with us. It looks great. We want activity on the line. So
until the service is improved and there is greater service, it's meaningless. And that's really what it comes down to. It's almost like it was a fruitless effort.
Well,
Mr.
we'll disagree on that. I appreciate that. I will say, we are submitting a budget option. It's a process. We don't decide how we spend our money. It comes from the governor and the General Assembly. We do what we are provided with. So we are going to submit that. And then but at the same time, there is no more money in the transportation fund. It is.
And I would simply suggest that when you submit that budget request to the administration in general, that you also notify us here at the local COG, and we will show up and support that initiative to give it the momentum that it may require.
So Garrett, if I could just ask for a clarification, are you saying that the department is submitting a request that would include service increases on the Waterbury line and the ability to issue debt to order new rail cars for that service? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying we will submit a request to increase service on the rail line.
Okay.
There already is a bond authorization for rail cars. We don't need to submit a request for a bond authorization.
So can you explain why the order for rail cars for the Waterbury branch line was not approved through the bond commission? I mean, do you have any information on that?
I think, the governor's office has commented on that multiple times. That's the bond commission, the OPM and the governor's office that decide what proceeds from what the department submits, what gets added to the bond commission agenda, and what gets voted on. But we did include in the RFP for rail cars, we included the option so we can add additional cars in the future if funds become available.
We agree that it's the bond commission's decision and the governor. We're not questioning that at all. But if my recollection is correct, the bond commission did approve some rail cars, as you so noted, but none for the Waterbury line. I believe it was Danbury, and I don't recall where else, but certainly not for the Waterbury line.
They did the Shoreline and the Hartford line.
Thank you. I stand corrected.
But that was my earlier point to Garrett, that there are priorities that are established within the department, not
I think
at
it
the
was,
legislature.
I think it,
Who's speaking?
Sheila.
Sheila, go ahead, Sheila.
Sheila, I think the rail cars for the Waterbury branch line were on the agenda and then were removed,
Correct.
if I'm not mistaken.
Not by the department.
Right.
Correct.
That's correct. It's the governor's office and the legislative body.
So, I mean, you understand the frustration though, Garrett. I mean, the prior administration made a priority, spent $110 million that will not really be worth much if we can't increase service. The purpose was to be able to run bi-directional service. I know I'm not telling you anything you don't know, and I feel bad that you have to sit there and answer these questions. But there are decisions that are made in the Bureau of Public Transportation and in the Office of Rails that impact us. There have been decisions made by the department to make greater investments in the Hartford line and into Shoreline East, and not to make those investments in the Waterbury branch and in the Danbury line, to be fair. But the real point for us is, if it's going to take such a long lead time to order rail cars, we're asking, is there a specific proposal that the department plans to submit to increase service by a specific level on the Waterbury branch line? And if you're submitting that proposal,
how are the rail cars going to be ordered and when can that get done? I know you don't have the power over overpaying for them.
We think we can do that without new rail cars in hand, without the order of new rail cars in hand. We think there are sets available that can be redeployed to the Waterbury branch. So that is why we will be, as Rich Andreski, our bureau chief, has indicated in the past, we will be submitting an option to increase service on the Waterbury branch line.
We look forward to that, hearing more on that matter. I get, this is one of those things that we could go on for a very long time. We have a number of other questions. Mayor Hess would like to make one more point.
You're invited to Naugatuck to the station restaurant to sit there with us and have a further discussion any day that works for you.
Okay.
Garrett, one of the other issues we wanted to talk about was trying to get an update. There's two things that we really want to hit today with you if we can. One is the Mixmaster alternatives update, not the current project, but the future plan.
Mhm.
And the third one is what we call our Main Street program, when we're dealing with your facilities that function as our local roads, and how some of those negotiations and decisions are getting made, because it's really problematic for us.
So
you want to go to the
I want
Mixmaster?
to talk about Mixmaster first. So
Yeah.
I do know that they've done an analysis needs and deficiency study for the Mixmaster, and they've worked to develop a replacement alternatives process. So they are developing those replacement alternatives, and they are planning to set up a meeting with Naugatuck Valley COG and other stakeholders to discuss that this fall. As we know, they took a break back in 2017 to pivot to the current process and look at the major rehab no build options. So right now they are turning back to what the alternatives are to actually do a replacement alternative. And so they're planning to set up a discussion with the entire COG to talk about that process and how it's going to move forward. Kim Lassay from our bureau chief. Kim, do you want to say anything about that? I know you've been involved on the environmental side.
Sure. I'm not sure if I'm still unmuted, if everybody
We
can hear me.
You are.
Okay, great. Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having us with you. Yes, the team has pivoted, and we're actually starting to go through a process. It's called the PEL process. It's planning and environmental linkages. It's before NEPA, and it's really to look at critical factors and to look at a wide range of alternatives and try to get that down to a reasonable range before we head into NEPA. And just echoing what Garrett said, there'll certainly will be some outreach to get input from the region and from critical stakeholders as we go into that process.
Thank you.
Mark Nielsen may have something.
Mark?
Yeah, just a comment. Again, this was a very important project to the region and the city in particular. And again, the only concern we have is sort of the lack of communication that has occurred on this project for the last several years. At the beginning, when the project was initially initiated, there was a lot of outreach and a lot of coordination, and then nothing. I just would request that we be kept informed, on the progress and where you're going, and when you pivot to a different direction, to let us know. It's just a little disconcerting that we wait 4 years before hearing what's going on. It doesn't afford us an opportunity to provide input. If you sort of talk to us after the fact, we need to be part of the process, not informed afterwards.
Mark, I certainly hear your concerns on that, and no decisions have been made yet. And I'll reach out to the project team, and you can certainly use me as a point of contact as well. If you have any questions or concerns, I'd be happy to talk with you and get something together with the project team.
All right, and again, all I'm suggesting is that instead of waiting for us to reach out to the department, we should be kept abreast of decisions. I'm trying to think, it was probably about a year ago, I reached out to the project manager at HNTB and I never got a response. And then I find out that the person had left. And, again, we aren't informed of those kinds of changes. So again, I just ask that we be, kept informed of what's going on.
Thank you, Mark.
So, Garrett, if we can, there are a number of things, I mean, we don't have the time to get into all these things today, but there are a number of items that have to do with close cooperation between the department, the towns, and the region. And there are some programs that work wonderfully, like LOTSIP. We'd like still a freer hand, but it's a great program. But, one of the deals we made there was that we really just approved the department's requests for STP funds. They're your projects, the program. We program the lots of projects ourselves. But there's got to be greater communication about those. And we have to have more information. We're always having to go back and ask for more information about these things. I do want to touch on the local roads, state facilities that function as essentially as local roads, main streets. We've had a priority in the region, supported, I think, universally by our CEOs, that the COG is going to be involved closely in any project on a state facility where it's a downtown, it's a main street, it's a main thoroughfare for the town. And while these projects may take some time, and while they're usually very complicated projects because of the infrastructure that's under the downtown roads, and they become expensive. There have been commitments made over the years in regard to these projects. And we find ourselves in final design arguing with project managers 4 levels down from the commissioner, telling us, oh, no, the town has to pay for that. These are commitments that were made by the then commissioner or then chief engineer, and now they're being pulled back as saying, well, we don't pay for those things for towns. We have 3 of the 5 most distressed municipalities, and I think 4 of the top 10. Our communities are not in a position to just toss off. It's insulting when I get a project engineer talking to a chief elected official in a town and saying, you don't have any skin in the game on this project. We're cooperating on roadway projects that, frankly, we're trying to prevent highways from being built through the downtowns and have them be suitable for a downtown setting. That means things like street lighting and plantings and crosswalks and things like that. When they're agreed to and then they're yanked away by lower level employees later on and they become long arguments, this is not helpful. This is not helpful to the process. And I'd appreciate the opportunity to discuss this further with you guys offline.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say to all the chief elected officials, we have an open door policy here. So if any of you have concerns with a project, you should definitely reach out to myself, to our chief engineer, to our deputy commissioner, Mark Rolfe, our former chief engineer, Kim Lassay, Sarah, Mary Beth, Casey. All of us are always open to talking to any chief elected official if you feel slighted or disrespected at all. Our project engineers have a very difficult job, and they work in a very hierarchical structure. They're engineers. It's a top-down approach in their bureau. So sometimes they operate like an engineer, they talk like an engineer. They not gonna say they're always right, but sometimes they're just taking orders. And that's where you can definitely contact us anytime on those types of issues. Happy to discuss them. So I will say, when it comes to roadways through municipalities, we are in the process internally here at the department. I know there's been a lot of other communities. I don't know how many of yours who are interested in no longer going through the department to set your own speed limits. We're open to letting a municipality do that. We're pulling together some legislation that would address that issue. So things like that, giving control back to the municipalities on their roadways. We're open to having those conversations.
If I may, I'd like to address just one more issue, and then we would like to move on, because this one is kind of this one affects me truly. Several years ago, Thomaston was fortunate enough to get a Connecticut community connectivity grant. And you're talking about putting more out there today. And that's great. I love the concept. Let me just illustrate one of the issues that may be coming up. And I know has occurred in my own town, Thomaston. We have been trying to utilize that grant for, I'm going to say, over 2, maybe 3 years now. I don't remember the exact time frame. And we have submitted 3 different plans to the local DOT to try to get this done. Because of some of the local restrictions that we have, i.e. property lines, I have one, for instance, property owner who literally owns right up to the edge of the road. So we need some flexibility in designing these programs with the local DOTs in order to get this done. Currently, we don't have that flexibility, so we're still at a standstill. I would really like to utilize this grant and provide this kind of connection between the north end and the south end of my town for those seniors who would like to walk to the various different commercial parties there, but are unable to do so unless they have to walk, and in some areas have to walk along the side of the road. So all I'm urging is some greater flexibility and understanding of the local issues that impact these matters, wherein we can't always come up with compliance with what the state would like to see.
Okay, if it's a community connectivity grant, have you been in discussions with Craig Babowitz, the project manager for all those grants?
I honestly, we have discussed with the local transportation board right in Thomaston. I'm not board, but the office in DOT there. I can't recall a name off the top of my head, to be candid with you. Our engineers and I have been in discussion with them. Like I said, multiple times, 3 different plans, and none seem to be able to get us there. So.
Yeah, well, I'll have Craig Babowitz reach out to her. He runs the whole program. I mean, I understand there is some difficulty. That program has some issues where it has to follow other state rules. Flood management certifications, things like that slow it down. Those aren't our rules. Those are DEEP's, and we're working with DEEP to try and loosen some of those restrictions.
I think in our case, it's more in compliance with what DOT would like to see. And I could be wrong, and I'll stand corrected if that's the case. But yes, please have, who did you say? I'm sorry, what was the name again?
Craig Babowitz. He's the head of all of our community connectivity grant programs.
Okay, yeah, please have Craig reach out to me. I'm the first selectman in Thomaston, and if you'd like, I can give you the email address, but I think that can be found.
Yeah, we have that.
We can exchange that information for you.
Thank you. I have one more, at least one more at this point, who would like to speak to you, Commissioner, and that is Selectman Temple. You're recognized.
That was a mistake.
Mistake, George?
I have no comment.
Okay, thank you, George. Is there anyone else who's either here in the room or with us virtually who has a question specifically for the Commissioner? Hearing none, I thank you very much. I'm sorry if we were rough on you, Deputy Commissioner.
Okay.
We do have, as you can see, I think we have some legitimate issues, and really what we're looking for is greater cooperation between CTDOT and us at the councils of government level, and certainly at the local level, because we all really have the same objectives in mind. It's just sometimes it's difficult for us to agree on how we get there. Greater flexibility would be appreciated.
And like I said, reach out to myself, Kim, anyone, anytime. Most of us don't sleep, as I'm sure most of you don't either. So anytime.
No, sleep is a rare commodity. Thank you. We have a group. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time, all your staff. We appreciate having you here today.
And a good day to you. Moving along to agenda item number 3. CNV. So now we're going to, and who's present for this? Please take this one over, Rick. This is for.
Sure. We have a quorum for the CNVMPO today. And the only person who's present that cannot vote, I believe, is Derby and Sonia. So with that, we have, I believe, 1 or 2 amendments. Gabe Filer should be available. Gabe?
Thank you. Yes, so today I'd like to put forth a TIP amendment. It's for the CT Fast Tracks program. and it's going to be used to help leverage some FTA funds with the low and no emission vehicle program, and it's going to help with funding the purchase of 3 electric battery powered buses.
Move Chatfield.
Is there a second?
Second, Dunn.
What was the second? I'm sorry.
Done.
Dunn.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Tommy. I have a motion and a second. Motion is on the floor. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Discussion.
Aye.
Any discussion? Any discussion?
Is there any discussion? I'm sorry. No discussion. We have ayes. Is there anyone who would like to vote no? And if so, please state your name. Thank you. Motion passes. You said, is there another one?
No, it
Did you
was
say,
on,
Rick?
it was on 2, it was only the one that was on 2 pages.
Okay, thank
2
you.
slides.
Yep, thank you. All right, moving along. NVCOG administrative items. Is there a motion to approve minutes of June 12th? Motion, Mr. Hess, Mayor Hess. Is there a second?
Second.
And
Temple.
George? Thank you, George. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, motion to approve indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
If there are any opposed, please say so and state your name. Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Next item, agency approval of agency financial reports. Mike?
Thank you. So you have 2 financial reports. The first one is the year-end report, which is the management's draft report of what the auditor is going to start with. We're currently projecting a surplus of $86,000. Most of that will be spent in current fiscal year of 2021, match for projects that haven't happened yet.
Okay.
One thing to note, there is in the transportation projects and the revenue, it's in and out, but it's about $88,000 that we're just waiting on final approval from CONDOT from Route 34 extra work. But I did want to bring it to your attention. And then this will be reviewed with the auditors and audit committee. Any questions?
Move to approve Chatfield.
Is there a second on?
Second.
Second, Mayor Hess. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none. Motion to approve indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any opposed? Rick?
No, make a motion.
Okay.
I just need to note something for the record. So we're not placing any of the documents on the screen for you. Everybody should have them in their own possession, and to the public, they're available on our website. You can view them live there if you need to. Thank you.
Technical difficulties. Okay, thank you. So motion was made, seconded, and approved unanimously. Next item. Do I have 2 the same here? No, I have yet another one.
You have the current financial report.
Yes.
Okay,
So,
please, Michael.
Yep, this report is through July 31st, 8% through the year. Bottom line is $218,000, mainly because local dues are paid up front. I did add a couple additional categories that weren't in the original budget, but they're programmatic reimbursements. So nothing to really worry about, just additional funding and revenue sources. We are going to be anticipating a couple other revenue sources throughout the year, particularly for COVID recovery work, which Rick will go into further in his director report. But it does cover staff, fringe, and there's something that costs.
Okay.
Any questions?
Being this early, I think, in the game, there can't be too many questions regarding where we are financially. That said, is there a motion to approve the financial report for period ending July 31, 2020? Motion?
So moved, Dunn.
So moved, Tommy Dunn?
Yep.
Is there a second?
Bob Chatfield.
Second by Mr. Mayor Chatfield. Thank you. Any discussion on this matter at all? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed indicate no in your name, please. Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Michael. You do have one other thing to discuss, Mike, and that's the Audit Services.
Yes, so the audit has begun about 2 weeks ago. The goal is to have the final report for the audit committee review in November, which previously has been December, so we're trying to move it up. We are in the last year of our current contract with AO Company, formerly Machado, Favello, and Woodbridge. We'll be drafting an RFQ to go up for proposals. Goal is to have that done by November and schedule an audit committee meeting to review and approve the draft RFQ. Two other goals would be to release the RFQ in January and select the firm March.
Okay.
So the audit committee is authorized to conduct the process and make the recommendation back to the board for selection in time. I don't think we have anything else on finance or audit, do we?
I don't believe so. I think that's all of it. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Michael. Director's report. It's on you, Rick. OPM interactions, et cetera.
Et cetera.
Yeah.
So a couple of things I need to talk about mostly have to do with COVID recovery. As you know, the governor's staff, the governor and his staff have assigned specific duties to all 9 COGs in Connecticut with regard to the long-term economic recovery of the state and the short-term needs of people who are affected by this. But the long horizon stuff is why they brought us in, because we're working 9 COGs in 5 Demis regions, but the 5 Demis regions really are not prepared to handle this long horizon work. They're prepared to deal with the aftermath of a hurricane, a natural disaster, something like that, where you're up and running in 30 days, 60 days at most. So we look at economic recovery as a long term. So Lisa Tepper Bates, who headed up the ESF 14 for the governor, who is yesterday was her last day. She's being replaced by Mary Glassman. Commissioner Lehman at DECD. They're really leading the effort here. So we have done a couple of things. One is that we've applied, as you have all applied, to OPM for reimbursement of our COVID administrative costs for last year through June 30th, and we've given them a projection through December. We're still negotiating with them. We expect to be reimbursed, but as Michael knows and is dealing with now, we have an open receivable from OPM that's pretty large. Tens of thousands of dollars for that period last year. We do expect to be reimbursed, and I expect OPM to make a decision soon. Without the HEROES Act being passed for additional block grant to states, we're not sure that the money is going to be available to cover our costs from July to December. That said, the COGs have worked together under the governor's guidance and under Commissioner Lehman's guidance. We've written a statewide application to EDA, the Federal Economic Development Administration, which we have a high degree of confidence in receiving. It's for about $8 million, some of it local match, some of it philanthropic, but the vast majority of it will come from EDA. And it's to conduct the long-term recovery, economic recovery work, to run the system of regional steering committees that the governor's people have put together under the 5 Homeland Security regions. And those efforts are going to be staffed primarily by COG staff, as we've been doing right along. So that's a 24-month application, and that should fund 90% of one of our staff planners, Joanna Rogalski, who's the lead on that, and then parts of 2 other staff persons, I believe, over the course of that time. We're partnering up with Global Resilience Institute at Northeastern University. They're sort of the lead on the front end of this. They'll be doing the team building, the capacity building. They're going to measure the factors in Connecticut against the model. They've developed a proprietary model they've developed over the last decade. And we'll be also working with the McChrystal group. Almost all of these people are ex-military, ex-US military. Every time I'm in one of these meetings, there's like 5 generals there. It gets confusing. So I wanted to let you know where we're going. I think we have a good picture going forward. I am a little worried about the OPM money for the balance of this calendar year, but we continue to work on that under CARES Act. I think that's kind of what I want to cover right now. Joanna is going to have more to say when we get to the emergency management reports. So the last pitch that I'd like your permission is just to turn to Richard quickly and ask him to talk about the census. You've forgotten about that?
No, sorry, I got distracted by Mayor Hess.
Please do, Richard.
So I hope everybody knows that as of right now, barring a court case next week, the census will end on September 30th. We have 3 weeks to finish getting everybody counted. There's fiscal resources. If you need a census worker at an event or at a grocery store, please let me know. I could get somebody there. Enumerators are going door to door. I know there are some issues. However, they're trying to get everybody counted. So if everybody's getting knocked, even though they knocked on, even though they filled it out already, they're just making sure you're counted. That's all they're doing. So please, any other questions, please let me know, and I could get you in contact with a proper census official.
Thank you, Richard. If anyone has a need or recognizes a need in their community, please get in touch with Richard directly as opposed to in this meeting environment, and he'll give you the assistance you request. Rick, just one question regarding the expenditures going forward from June through December. Should they not be reimbursed? Is any projection as to what they might be?
So Michael has actually exact projections. I don't know what we have for the current year, $40,000 or $50,000. Sounds right. But so the issue of the prior year is an important one because we need that money from OPM, isn't it? Because it's expended.
Right, but we anticipate receiving that, correct?
Right, but the key is we were not allowed to use our regional service grant, our main state funding for that purpose.
Okay.
Going forward, if they don't give us CARES Act money, we've told them you have to allow us to spend the regional service grant money on that. So we'll have the money. It's just a matter of how we assign our staff under our current work plan.
I got you. Okay. That's understood. So really, in essence, it wouldn't create a deficit at the end of the year for us. It just might deny some services in another area.
Correct. We're going to cancel some other program work until we can afford it.
Understood. Thank you. Okay. Anything further for Rick Dunn from anyone? Okay.
This is where I like where they're all muted.
Yeah. Thank you. Moving on to number 5, authorization for Executive Director Rick Dunn to execute an MOU with the Western Connecticut Council of Governments and the Northwest Council of Governments regarding functions and responsibilities for Demis Region 5 under fiscal year 2020 Homeland Security REPT grant program.
So moved, Chapter.
Thank you, Bob.
Second, Dunn.
On that one, buddy.
Second was Tom Dunn.
There is a second from Tom Dunn. Thank you. Is there any discussion on this at all? I think you all know that essentially we've agreed to let Northwest Hills do the administrative end, and this is what this covers. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Was there a discussion? Sheila? Was that you?
All set.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Number 6, authorization of Executive Director Rick Dunn to execute agreements with previously approved program applications of motion and emotions required of NVCOG Resolution 2021-01.
Move, Chapter.
Second, Hess. All in favor, indicate by, first, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Item number 7, authorization Rick, you're getting a lot of authorizations
Yeah.
today, buddy.
This is annual.
Authorization, yeah, of NVCOG Executive Director Rick Dunn to execute and deliver OPM notices of grant award for 2021 regional services. Motion, please.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
And a second. All in favor or any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously. Last one for Rick Dunn also. Gabe is going to, Gabe, please speak. Gabe Filer, you want to already? Hi, Sheila, you're good.
Hi.
Gabe.
Thank you. So I'm putting forth a motion today for the Valley Transit District Bus Shelter Project. We hope to help with the installation of 10 to 20 bus shelters in the VTD service area because a lot of the existing bus shelters are in need of repair due to weathering and other factors. So we issued an RFQ hoping to seek a design consultant, and they will help with this project by developing specifications, conducting site feasibility, and help with the creation of construction documents. And we hope to do installation of the bus shelters sometime in the next year.
Thank you.
Who are we entering into the contract with?
We're still in the review process.
That's what I thought I
Okay,
heard.
all right,
Okay.
thank you.
Any questions from anyone for Gabe before we ask for a motion? No questions. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Second, Tommy Dunn.
Discussion.
Rick?
Yes, just one item of note for all of you. I apologize. Keep going.
Okay.
Wrong issue.
Moving along.
Wrong item.
All in favor, I think, did I call for the vote already? No, I'm sorry. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion approved
I need
unanimously.
to just go back and explain something on the prior one for the regional service grant authorization.
Please do.
And
Rick.
I think
That would be item number 7.
Yes, I thank Michael for reminding me. So there is a clause in the contract that you all need to be aware of. We present a work plan, we make annual reports to the state, to OPM as part of this. Last year, we were directed to study the consolidation of public service answering points, 911 systems, and as you might recall, regional tax assessment functions. We made our report that we looked at it and told and reported back the level of interest that existed. We've now been directed again by OPM to make another report on this, but they haven't given us any guidance. They haven't told us what constitutes the proper response to their request, but they've told us if we do not respond by March, that they are going to confiscate our fourth quarter's allocation. Now, this is not specifically us, they've told all the COGs this, but I just wanted to make you aware. We have a plan for dealing with it. We have a plan for responding, but you know, the appetite was not there for a lot of for these specific items. We had interest in other regionalization items, but these specific ones there was not a strong appetite for. But we have a plan amongst Michael, Mark, and myself as to how to respond and how to present them with information so that we're not out that money at the last minute. So I just needed to mention that on the record.
Very good, thank you.
That
said, we're moving on to item number 9. Okay, and we're talking about planning. Christian?
Karen.
Yep, this is
I'm just going to take this, not Christian?
Yeah.
Okay, Karen?
Yep, good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. Very quickly, I had requested proposals from our group of on-call engineers to perform a third-party review for a very important project for the town of Plymouth. It's the reconstruction of Harwington Avenue. And out of our 7 firms, I received 6 proposals. BL companies came in with the best price, so we would like to enter into an agreement with BL companies for the third-party review for this project.
We'll move Chatfield.
Motion by Mayor Chatfield. Is there a second? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lenny. Second by Lenny. It's hard. Any discussion on this matter? Any discussion? Mayor Merchant, did you want to comment in any way?
No, I don't have any comment, but I would sure appreciate this.
That's good enough comment for me. I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Opposed, Judy Mancini.
Pardon me?
Opposed, no, voting no.
Okay, City of Waterbury opposes. How do we?
Motion passes.
Motion, fine. Motion passes. Thank you very much. So B, Beacon Valley Road reconstruction attachment. Didn't we just, I'm confused. Are A and B synonymous?
No.
No? Okay. So number B, 9B, approval of new project, I see. I got you. Beacon Valley Road reconstruction.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Christian Meyer.
Thank you, Christian.
I'm presenting a new project for the town of Beacon Falls. Beacon Valley Road is a heavily deteriorated minor collector, has narrow lanes and no shoulders. Previously, the town had a project along the same stretch of road for the replacement of a bridge. Additional engineering has shown that this bridge full replacement will not be necessary for this bridge, and the town has removed that project and is submitting this project, this reconstruction project, in its place. The current estimate is for $700,000 for the construction costs. The grant value will be 120% of construction value, so we're approving, we're looking at $840,000 grant under lot SIP.
And this is a cost estimate for a pre-application. We'll be back to you when the full application and the full design is done, I'm sure, with a final authorization.
So then therefore, at this point in time, we're simply accepting the project as part of our LoSiP.
You're approving
with
it
an
as part of the-
estimated cost.
You're approving it as part of the schedule.
Exactly. I got a motion by Mayor Chatfield. Do I have a second by Mayor Hess? All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. C, approval NVCOG resolution 2021-03. Does everybody have that, or shall I read it?
So moved, Chatfield.
Thank you, Bob.
Second.
Second by Mayor Hess. Any discussion on this matter at all? We're approving Fuss and O'Neill for professional planning services. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously. 9D, approval NVCOG resolution 2021-04.
I'll keep it rolling, make the motion.
Okay, Mayor Dunn, excuse me. Mayor Chatfield, keeping this moving as he always does. Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.
Second? Is there a second on this motion?
Second.
I have a second by Tom Dunn, I believe, correct?
Correct.
Okay, very good. Discussion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I call the motion. All in favor indicate, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Waterbury is voting no on that.
Waterbury votes nay. You're in? Okay, okay. Motion passes. Thank you. So noted, Waterbury voted nay. Moving along to item number 10, environmental planning. Aaron, are you available? Aaron Budges?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as you all may recall, NVCOG was awarded with a FEMA grant last year to conduct a multi-jurisdictional natural hazard mitigation plan for all 19 COG municipalities. An active approved mitigation plan is required by FEMA for municipalities to be eligible for certain federal mitigation funding programs, and plans must be updated every 5 years. Hazard mitigation plans were previously developed by either separately or in smaller multi-jurisdictional groups with COG assistance. Some of those plans have recently expired or will expire soon. The purpose of the current effort is to fulfill municipal federal requirements at minimal cost to towns, get all 19 municipalities on the same renewal schedule, and develop a valuable regional planning document with recommendations that can be incorporated into regional plans and programs. Consultant Selection Committee of COG and municipal representatives selected Malone and McBroom to be the project consultant, and they're underway right now, setting up local meetings in all of your towns. We have project manager David Murphy with us this morning to discuss the project process and expectations. David?
Thanks, Aaron. Do you want me to share my slides, or would you like to? Let me know.
You're up.
Does them up. Yep.
They're up. All right. Next slide, please.
We're looking for it.
Oh, no, it's there. Hold on.
One moment.
We just have to clear something in the room. Just make it one.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
Go ahead, Dave.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
All right. This one is good. Hi, everybody. Good to see you all. It's been a couple of years. We'll briefly go through the purpose and need for the plans. Many of you will remember this, but it's good to do an update. The best part of this presentation is the grant programs, because that's why we're here, for money. Talk about how the plan can be used, status of existing plans, schedule for this process, what we're going to do for public engagement, and then we'll end with what I need from all of you. Next slide. Okay, so this is the same as it was 4 or 5 years ago when you all went through this last. The Disaster Mitigation Act is why these plans are required. The goal of the act is to encourage preparedness and to encourage communities to take actions to reduce losses from natural hazards. The graphic on the right-hand side is from FEMA. It just kind of shows how some of the funding has been used in the most recent completed fiscal year. There's one big change to the grant programs. We used to talk about PDM, FMA, and HMGP. PDM has been retired, and as of this month, it's been replaced with a program called BRIC, Building Resilient Infrastructure in Communities. It's essentially the same thing. It's meant to be a little bit more flexible. We'll see if that's true as the years go by. Next slide. Okay, so we're covering natural hazards. These are extreme natural events, so windstorms, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, etc. Next slide. So mitigation, just really important point. So sandbags, is a sandbag supply mitigation? Kind of, except it needs to be deployed. So what's better than something that we need to deploy is something that's kind of permanently in place. So elevating a building or removing it from a flood zone. These pictures are from out of your region. These are from Meriden Green. So mitigation is something that we don't really have to intercede with. We can kind of let it happen on its own, and losses will be reduced if a flood or a windstorm occurs. Next slide. We talked about this a little bit already. So PDM has been replaced with BRIC. The really important point here is that grants are open right now for FMA and for BRIC. They were opened federally this month. We don't know yet when Demis is going to open them. They usually have a little bit of a lag. There is money that will be put into one of the programs, HMGP, by virtue of us having a disaster declaration for COVID. We don't know yet how much or how that will be used. The way the money is used doesn't always need to match the disaster. So you can have a tornado and the next year the funding can be used for a flood mitigation. That's okay. We don't know if that's going to hold true. So bear with us as we kind of learn our way through this with all of you. Next slide. So how can the grants be used? Building acquisitions, culvert replacements, drainage projects is what we typically see in Connecticut. If you look at that graphic on the right-hand side, this is nationwide, top 5 mitigation project types. So generators, which is number 4 on the list, and utility infrastructure protection, which is number 3. Those are the 2 that we see most often in Connecticut. We don't see number 5, safe rooms. We don't see that many acquisitions or flood control projects anymore, but again, those categories 3 and 4 really fit our state very well and would fit your region as well. Next slide. An example from Southbury, acquisitions. Many of you are familiar with this area. It's next to the Pomperaug River. Next slide. I popped out of your region for a moment because Brookfield was very proud to receive about $1 million a couple of years ago from FEMA for a drainage project for Meadowbrook Manor. Next slide. And I've got one example from out of state because I think this is a good example. Many of us have public works facilities or fire stations that are right next to a river. These were FEMA funds that were used to stabilize a riverbank. Next slide. So the grants are real. If you can stomach working with the FEMA grant, they may be for you. Moving on, the status of existing plans. Most of you have been through this twice before, and Sonia Derby and Seymour have been through this only once before. So this is the third edition for many of the towns in the region. You can see, I'm not going to read all the dates on the screen, but the last two towns to join the region, Bristol and Plymouth, are the two that have the most recently approved plan. It's from 2016. So what's going to happen is all 19 municipalities will now share one multi-jurisdiction plan. Next slide. This is a list of the expiration dates. So unfortunately, some of the plans have already expired. And what we want to try to do is just get our new plan in front of FEMA by sometime in this coming winter so that fewer expirations will be upon us. Plymouth and Bristol expire about a year from now. So they're going to be safe. We probably won't make it in time for Beacon Falls to have a lapse, to avoid a lapse, but many of you will have to tolerate a little bit of a lapse. Go ahead, advance one, there may be animation on this slide. Yep, so that's what I just said, submit before those plans. Okay, so this is the overall, all right, go ahead. Overall schedule, we kicked off last month and we're setting up meetings with all of you right now. So we expect this will go through next summer overall. Next slide. Public engagement, just want to touch on this briefly. Public meetings have not been going well for hazard mitigation plans. They already were, it was always tough to get people to come out to public meetings, except for the one we had in Southbury about 10 years ago where we filled the room. But overall, we can't get people to come out to these meetings. We kind of thought that during the pandemic, people would just log in from anywhere, you know, they'd be on vacation on the beach, they just log in, why not? Everyone can get in, but we're finding that's not really true. So we're gonna have to work a little bit harder. We'll have public meetings virtually, but we also will have a survey and something called a story map. And I think there's an example on the next slide. Right, so this is a story map that we've deployed for Northwest Hills, who is also going through a plan update right now. And we have a draft of your story map that I sent over to Aaron yesterday, so he'll take a look at that. This will be an additional way to engage people who really don't want to come out to a meeting or dial into a Zoom meeting. Next slide. So this is my last slide as well. Local meetings are, we're scheduling them right now. We really want to get them done this fall. We don't want any of them to trickle into the winter. Each of you will or has already designated a local coordinator. Perhaps the local coordinator is one of you on the call. These will be either in person or web-based. We know that most of you have elected to do this virtually, and that is fine. The main point of these meetings is not to we're not going to redo the whole plan. We're not going to overbake these meetings. We want to review what's at risk, talk about if any critical facilities have changed, and look at the last few disasters that have occurred. And we've had a couple. Those tornadoes in May 2018, floods in September 2018, and then of course tropical storm of last month, plus other various wind events we've had this summer that have caused a lot of chaos. One change in the slide, Noah Slovin, Victoria Bruce will be back up on the local meetings, but Scott Bignatti will take most of the meetings with you. If you've worked on this before with us, you remember Scott and I, we were around for the first editions for the COG CNV towns and for the second editions as well, and the first editions for VCOG and the second edition for the former CCRPA. So we've worked on, Scott and I have worked on all these plans, and we decided he might be a better match for the local meetings. We want to get them done this fall, and that's it. Any questions? Any questions? I guess, Aaron, back to you.
Thanks, David. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Rick, should we move to the next item? I think you're muted, Rick, if you're talking. Rick?
incurred by the state and by the taxpayers and the
You were
benefit.
muted by accident.
Oh, I'm muted?
You were.
Yeah, you were muted there, Rick.
That's
Okay.
what he's at his best.
Thanks, George. I appreciate that. So
Vote of confidence, Rick.
just so everyone's aware, I'm not in control of the microphone. Anyway, so to go back to the beginning of what I started to say, Kinneytown Dam, we're letting you know because we're adding this to our work plan. It's something we're going to focus on going forward, probably over the next several years. It's been on our radar for a long time. We just haven't been able to dedicate the resources to it. We've gotten inquiries from many of the CEOs regarding the investments made by DEEP and by the state upriver to breach dams, $6.3 million to build the fish bypass in Seymour. But the Kinneytown Dam is south of that. And we've made an inquiry. You were all copied on a memo, and we're asking for the data on fish passage at Kinneytown Dam because it doesn't appear that any fish are passing. So the state spent $6.3 million in Seymour, probably $20 million on the dam breaching program on the river so that we can return sea-run anadromous fish, salmon, and other species that will run from the ocean back up the Naugatuck River, and they can get to Thomaston if we get the bypass or the fish ladder working at Kinneytown Dam. It seems that on our initial blush or initial assessment, the problems are much deeper at Kinneytown Dam. So we've asked for meetings with the state. Aaron will be the program lead on this, and we'll continue that discussion and keep you updated. But ultimately, we want to return sport and recreational fishing to the Naugatuck River and make it a destination.
Could I comment?
Go right ahead.
Well, speaking for, Naugatuck Waterbury and everyone that's been involved in it, if this happens or when it happens, we're going to have striped bass from the ocean coming all the way up into Thomaston. It can't happen now, but it can happen. And the biggest impediment is this dam. And it is fairly complicated, and there are some issues, but they are definitely worth exploring. And we could really make the Naugatuck River outstanding. So it's definitely worth the effort to get involved and find a solution. Exactly what it is, I don't know, but someday when we have extra time, maybe you should have Kevin Zach come here and show you the photographs of what's actually happening at that dam. They're heartbreaking. So it's a worthy project to explore and find a solution.
I'll let Aaron go back and let Aaron speak. I just let you know, we didn't bring any visuals for today because we knew how long the agenda was. And we'll probably schedule either a committee or executive committee meeting over this issue so we can spend more time on it in the future. But the mayor really just captured all that. Aaron, is there anything we've left out? Anything you think we need to cover for the board?
No, I think that's it. We'll keep you apprised in the future when we hear back from DEEP and Fish and Wildlife.
All right.
Thank you, Aaron.
Just tell you that before we take any action, we'll come back to the board. There may be an opportunity in the future for us to file as an intervener with the FERC, who actually regulates all this. So, but obviously that's a board decision. We'll come back to you and fully brief you and ask for permission. Thank you.
All right, next matter is brownfields activity, Rick.
Yeah,
so you keep going, buddy.
Brownfields activities. I'm going to keep this brief for today. We're still working on the three pieces. So we have our regular brownfields program that does assessments, and we use the regional brownfields partnership. Leslie is working on getting that sort of reorganized post-COVID and active. We're applying for new assessment funds in the current round that will be going to EPA for this month or next month. The revolving loan fund, as most of you know, we got new money, 800,000, I think, into it. And we'll be soliciting for projects, although there are priorities outlined in the original application. Leslie also needs to hear from any of you who have assessment needs, brownfields assessment needs. If you have sites that you have site control or the owner's willingness and you need to get it assessed, we need those sites for the application. The last piece is the land bank. So we've come through the land bank. We've signed the MOU on both sides. That's all executed. So we're in the process now of revising bylaws for the land bank, so that what we talked about how those would operate and how those would be controlled would go forward. But the Connecticut Brownfields Land Bank is first in the state. It got a plug from DECD yesterday on Congressman Himes' Brownfields webinar. And I think we'll be able to do good things to bring a lot of assets to the towns. And I'll leave it at that and answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions for Rick? Thank you for having none. Moving along. Item number 11, John, you're going to talk about hazardous, household hazardous waste briefly.
Very briefly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everyone. This will be brief because I realize we're running long. It's a long agenda. There are 15 towns that participate in the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments Household Hazardous Waste Program. Our final event for calendar year 2020 is 2 weeks from tomorrow, Saturday, September 26th. It is in Ansonia, Connecticut. What I just want to bring to everybody's attention briefly is that our vendor, which conducts the majority of these events throughout the state of Connecticut, is reporting higher than usual turnout. Any of your residents may have reported this because in July, the event we had in Waterbury, we saw the highest turnout we've ever had. It was nearly 1,200 cars. There was a wait time of more than an hour in some cases. We also expect there will be a higher than usual turnout 2 weeks from tomorrow. After consultation with our member towns, we've expanded the time frame by 90 minutes. It'll run from 7:30 in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We also have a protocol in place that limits contact between our line staff and the residents that worked well during the first one in July. And happy to take any questions if anyone has any.
Any questions for John?
I see Rick got you a new office.
It'll look better soon.
You move it up, sir.
All right, thank you. Moving on, item number 12. Joanna, you have three items to discuss here.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all the members of the board. Rick touched on this a little bit earlier, but I just want to go over some of the more statewide events that are going on related to COVID-19. Many of you know the state emergency declaration has been extended to February 9th, 2021. Executive Order 9 was in association with that. And I just want everyone to know that the executive order, all the executive orders that had no specific date of expiration will expire on November 9th, 2020. However, the state is reviewing all executive orders to determine which are needed or if new ones are indeed needed. As far as the FEMA reimbursement for COVID-19 regarding the municipal expenses, last week FEMA issued some guidance, but it was not very helpful. And according to Brenda Bergeron, the state is working with FEMA to allow more items to be reimbursed. So stay tuned. As far as COVID-19 cases, more cases have been reported among persons aged 19 to 30 years old, and more spreading is occurring through small gatherings. So that's just at the state of Connecticut level. The other thing you should know is the State Department of Health is partnering with the Yale School of Public Health to analyze COVID data from March 2020 to currently. And once that data is analyzed and vetted, they will be sharing the results with municipalities. The other thing you should know, the Federal Department of Health and Human Services is providing Connecticut with 1 million cloth masks, which will be distributed to Connecticut schools. And that's going to be done through the State Department of Education and Department of Public Health. And you should know 500,000 are smaller sized for the younger students, and 500,000 will be adult sized. I just wanted to touch now about some of these regional recovery steering committees that Rick was talking about earlier. I'm just going to talk about specifically to Region 5, because that's where most of our towns are. The main goal of these steering committees is to identify any and all unmet needs and to partner with local committees to make sure those needs are met either at the local level or the regional level. And if they're not met at those levels, to help, this steering committee will help elevate those issues to the state, bring it to the state's attention, and hopefully something else can be done at that time. And as far as what kind of subject areas we're working on, there's philanthropy and finance, education and technology, health and human services, jobs and business, and cultural resources and recreation. So those are our subject areas for the Regional Recovery Steering Committee. And I just want to touch upon the local long-term recovery coordinators and committees. These are the ones that would be at the municipal level. These are stemming from each town has to have a local emergency operations plan, and they need to have a local recovery coordinator identified. This is kind of stemming from that. The thing is the state has asked that this local coordinator not be the emergency management director, be someone who's more in touch with the community and maybe all those little groups that are falling through the cracks. The state doesn't want that to happen. So that's the idea behind these local committees. That being said, if it doesn't make sense to your community, you feel like all your unmet needs are being met, you don't have to put one together. But, and you can always join up with another community, a neighboring community. Prospect or Naugatuck could join up if they wanted to. The COG is always here to help you guys out with that. But, you know, we know that you guys are, at the local committees, are the best experts on what you need. So we're keeping an eye on things, and we're always here for a resource. Regarding regional emergency planning teams, Region 5, our last meeting was August 17th, and a spending plan for fiscal year 2020 was adopted, and that is for $382,157. The next CEO meeting for Region 5 is on November 16th this year. And concerning the community emergency response teams, in August, the state of Connecticut sent out a call for volunteers for these community emergency response teams to actually work with the state on contact tracing. In order for your CERT to be eligible for this, they need to be activated. And if you have any other questions regarding that, you can contact me and I'll get you hooked up with the right people. And that's all that I have right now. And I'm open to questions right now.
Thank you, Joanna. Does anyone have any questions for Joanna? Hearing none. Thank you, Joanna, very much. One other item before we adjourn. There is another here. Is there anything other that anyone virtually or here at the table would like to bring before us today?
This is Joanna. If I could amend, I have one other issue, emergency management related.
Certainly, Joanna.
So this is regarding Tropical Storm Isaias, and there has been a motion filed by Ridgefield and three other communities, three other municipalities, calling for PURA for immediate relief from the recent collapse of Eversource's Make Safe and Liaison programs. I sent out an email earlier this morning to the EMDs and CEOs. Even though this is originating from the 4 towns, this is asking for immediate relief from all municipalities in Connecticut that were affected by Tropical Storm Isaias and the lapse of service from Eversource. So I'm happy to answer some questions right now, but we at the COG, if everyone agrees, if no one has any objections, we're also going to be sending a letter to support this motion on behalf of Ridgefield and 3 other towns. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
So is that a question? I'm going to ask, is that a question to amend the agenda to entertain a motion for this councils of government to put forth a letter of support?
Joanna, please speak that.
Yeah, I did not, this is not a call for an amendment, or I'm sorry, to amend the resolution. No.
Okay, all right.
To amend
Thank
the
you.
agenda, I apologize. I just wanted to, first of all, let you guys know about this, and we can talk about it at another time.
Very good.
Could I weigh in on that? Ed St. John here, could I weigh in?
Please do, Ed.
Joanna, I think to all our other communities, I think it's extremely important. Having dealt with these situations for years, we were fortunate here that we were made safe here within 48 hours with 82 different major infrastructure damages to Eversource's infrastructure. But that aside, I think there is, and I've said this for a long time, there is a major problem in responding to that make safe time with the proper crews, not for restoration. And I think the group would be very wise to join in with our counterparts over in Brookfield, et cetera, and join in with them and see if we can't get at the table and see if that process can't be fine-tuned and improved.
Thank you for that comment, that I think we've all received some information on that today, I believe personally, or at least in our emails. And I know I've seen it and haven't really had an opportunity to review it and think about it. I'm also going to converse with the various different parties, my EMD and that kind of stuff, to get their perspective on it. But I think I would agree that I was not particularly thrilled with the response that we received either. But that said, that's something for us all to evaluate. Thank you for your comment. Anyone else? Hearing no other comment, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
By Mayor Hess.
Zeke.
Second. Zeke?
Derby, yep.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Everybody says aye, by the way. No, are there any nays? I doubt it, but are there any?
Have a good weekend.
Pardon me?
Next meeting is October 9th. Same setup. If you want to if you want to be here in person, you need to reach out to Lauren in advance. Officers first, and then members in that order.
Okay, thank you. So meeting is adjourned at 11:45. Where's Kurt Miller going?
You're right.